Modifying or adapting a piece of vintage glass to work with a modern cinema camera is admittedly a daunting task, at least on the surface. More daunting than that, at least to me, however, was the time and cost that it would take to send that to have it done professionally by someone else, someone who actually knows what they're doing. So I did what anybody else would do, and I figured out how to do it myself. And now I'm here to show you how to do it. Don't worry, you can handle this one. My name's Troy Maris, I'm a DP in Chicago, and on this channel we're talking all things filmmaking, and I do mean all things filmmaking. Today we're modifying a Leica R Summicron 50mm f2 lens made in 1979 to work with a Canon C70 here in 2023. And this is made possible via the SyncID Cine Adapter kit. So let's get after it. For starters, let's prep our work surface. We're gonna wanna make sure that we clear our space of any unnecessary items, tools, boxes, wrappers, soda cans, what have you. At Zevia. Clean off your desk. We are going to be working with some smaller parts and screws, so we don't want anything getting lost in the sauce. Then we're also going to want to gather all of our tools and parts that we're going to need. The parts that we're going to need from SyncID for our Leica 50 modification today include the Leica R to Canon EF brass mount adapter. And if this is the first modification you've done from SyncID, when you go to buy that adapter, you're going to see an optional item for the JIS screwdriver. They used to include it with their kits, but not anymore. It's an optional item. It costs like $4 or $5. It's this one here. It is essentially just a really small Phillips head screwdriver, magnetic tip with a rotating knurled knob on the back. I would recommend, if this is again your first one, buy this screwdriver because you're probably going to be modifying other lenses after you do one. It's a bit like tattoos. Once you get one, you gotta get other ones. Get that screwdriver. It's definitely the right tool for the job. The next item on the list is to get the appropriate sized focus ring for your lens. Now, SyncID has an incredible lens database of a lot of different brands of vintage lenses, which is organized by serial number, and it gives you a lot of the specifications of that lens, like filter size or outer barrel diameter for this situation for the focus ring. Check that out, make sure you get the appropriate focus ring, and we'll move on to the next item, which is going to be to get the Cine ring adapter. Again, referencing that database on SyncID, cross-checking it with your serial number, learn what the appropriate filter thread size, if you don't already know it, of what your lens is. Some of these older lenses, they don't show on the lens itself what the filter size is. That's more common on newer lenses. So that's a great place to go to make sure you get the appropriate sized Cine ring adapter. There's a couple different options on SyncID for Cine ring adapters. I went with one, and here's my 28. I went with a Cine ring adapter that you could put the brand on, as well as the focal length and aperture. It cost a little bit extra, but I thought it was kind of cool, so I did it. Then the last item you're going to need are caps, one for the front and one for the rear. Again, this one's going to be up to you which cap route you want to go for your lens modification. You could go stock, or you know me, I had to make it a little bit fancier. You could customize your own from scratch. This is a kind of a boilerplate template that SyncID has for you. Brand name, focal length, aperture, and then it's red on the back, and I did a matching one on the back, but I've got the wrong cap on here. We're going to pretend like that didn't happen. So those are all the pieces that we're going to need. You'll notice that I'm choosing not to declick my aperture ring. This is a common step that people like to do when they're modifying vintage lenses, so that way you could have a stepless exposure adjustment as you adjust your aperture. But with Leica R lenses, they're actually spring-loaded on the inside, and if you take out the bearing that gives you the click of the aperture ring, what will happen is they actually will start to drift over time, and there's a way that you can adjust springs and attach them to cams, but that is something that you definitely want to have a professional do. I didn't want my aperture to drift over the course of a day and mess up my exposure. So I'm choosing to keep mine clicked, and I won't have that option, but that's okay. I'm not doing a lot of aperture pulls in my work anyway. Step one. All right, we've made it. We're committed. We're going to dive in. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. I'm a new member of the club. I don't know if I can actually welcome you to the club, but here we are. We're in this together. First thing we'll do, on the mount of your camera, you're gonna find 6 Phillips head screws that happen to match that JIS screwdriver I mentioned before. You're gonna wanna take out 5 of these 6 screws. Yes, that's right, you're leaving one of these screws in place. Now, CinMod officially recommends that you take a soldering iron and you heat up the heads of the screws to help them break loose. I've done a couple of these modifications now. I don't have a soldering iron. I just took my screwdriver and started unscrewing them, and they all came out free and clear. So that is the official recommendation, and that is what I did. With just one Phillips head screw holding that mount in place, go ahead and take out your Leica R to Canon EF adapter and place it over top of the existing mount. You're gonna align the holes in the adapter with the female threaded holes that are in the actual lens body itself. Now, this is where you're gonna wanna make sure that you align your mount adapter in a way that when it secures onto your camera, the markings are in the place that you want them to be. I aligned mine in a manner so that way when I look at the left side of my camera body, I can see all of my aperture information and see some of the focus information. Some people prefer to have the aperture information on the very top of the lens. I often have a monitor on top of my camera or a top handle, so I opted to rotate it 90 degrees to the left just a bit to let me be able to see it from the left side of the camera. With the mount adapter aligned on the lens the way that you want it, go ahead and take 5 of the 6 supplied screws. They give you an extra just in case you happen to lose one, but you won't because you prepped your work surface the way that you were supposed to, right? Take those 5 screws and thread them into the existing holes on the lens body, tightening them, but please don't over tighten them here. You don't want to risk stripping out one of your screws, or stripping out the mount hole itself would be even worse. And just like that, you've successfully converted your Leica R lens into an EF mount. Let's press on. And we'll do that by pressing on our focus ring. And it really is that simple. All you need to do is take that ring, slip it over the rear of the lens, and then friction fit it over the focus ring, and you're set. You've now cinemodded the focus ring to have standard focus gears. That's what I'm looking for. This will bring us to the front of our lens where we're going to thread on our Cine Ring adapter. And we're going to do that the same way that we've attached any other filter to any other lens for our entire filmmaking career. Really, the only thing that's nuanced about the Cine Ring adapter set that I got, the one that has the brand name on the top and then the focal length and aperture information on either side, is that we want to make sure that we align this so that way when we attach it to the camera, the brand is on top, and then on the left and right side, you have the focus information. And they accomplish this via a 2-stage thread system. So what you're going to do, begin threading on both of them together, and when you get the brand to the top of your lens, hold the outer ring in place, and then begin to tighten down the inner ring until it is snug up against the camera. Again, not too snug, enough to keep it in place so it's not unthreading on you, but 2-stage adapter. That way you can have the brand on top, focus information on either side of your lens. Leaves us with our front and rear caps. Slap those on. The caps that I went with are just a friction fit over the 80mm outer diameter thread, and then just EF cap on the back. Much to my surprise, it really was that easy to convert my 1979 Leica R Summicron 50 to be compatible with my 2023 Canon C70 cinema camera. Now the C70 has an RF mount. I'm just using a simple RF to EF 0.71x focal adapter to use my Leica set on my C70. So that's the only other piece you're not seeing here. But let's throw this on the C70 and just test it out and make sure everything's working the way we want it to. That is looking really good. Everything's working and fitting the way that it's supposed to, so I'm happy. But all of this begs the question, why are we using vintage lenses in 2023? What's the purpose of that? It's a great question. It's one I'm glad you asked. We're gonna answer that here in the next video. So go ahead, click that. I'll see you over there. In the meantime, make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below, do all the YouTube things, and I will see you in the next vid.